In this video, we are going to talk about the hypothesis testing for the population variance. So the null hypothesis is sigma squared equal to sigma sub O squared. So we are trying to test whether the population variance sigma squared is equal to a specified value sigma sub O squared. The alternative hypothesis, as usual, you have the lower and upper tail tests, or you have the two-tailed test, sigma squared not equal to sigma sub O squared. For this test of hypothesis, we will be using a chi-square test. So for the chi-square tests, this will be the rejection criteria to be used. So for a lower tail test, we reject the null hypothesis if chi-square is less than chi-square 1 minus alpha. For an upper tail test, we reject the null hypothesis if chi-square is greater than chi-squared alpha. And if it is a two-tailed test, we will have two criteria. So if chi-square is less than chi-square 1 minus alpha over 2, or if chi-square is greater than chi-square alpha over 2. So the test statistic here is chi-square. And it is given by the following formula. N minus 1 s squared over sigma sub O squared. So again, take note of the notation. S squared here will refer to the sample variance. Also, please take note that for the chi-square test, the degrees of freedom to be used is n minus 1. So similar to the estimation of one variance, the degrees of freedom to be used for this case is n minus 1. So just the sample size deducted by 1. So to illustrate with an example, we have a manufacturer of car batteries who claims that the life of his batteries has a variance equal to 0.81 years. We now have a random sample of 10 of these batteries, and it was found that they have a variance of 1.44 years. Is this evidence, or is this enough evidence that the variance exceeds 0.81 a year using a 0.05 level of significance? So again, we start with our null and alternative hypothesis. So the null hypothesis is the claim of the manufacturer that the variance is equal to 0.81. This is the hypothesis we want to test. Our alternative, based on the question, we want to find out if there is evidence that the variance exceeds 0.81 a year. So the keyword is exceeds, meaning we are going to use an upper tail test. So the alternative is that sigma squared is greater than 0.81. For step 2, alpha is equal to 0.05. And for step 3, we identify the rejection criteria. So we are using a chi-square test, and we should be using an upper-tailed chi-square test. So we reject the null hypothesis if the test statistic chi-square is greater than chi-squared alpha. So for this example, alpha is equal to 0.05. And the degrees of freedom is 10 minus 1 or 9. So if we look this up in the chi-square table, you will find that this value is equal to 16.919. For step 4, we now compute the test statistic chi-squared. So the chi-square test statistic is given by n minus 1 s squared all over sigma sub O squared. So n minus 1 would be equal to 9. S squared will be equal to 1.44, the sample variance. So again, be careful. The given value is 1.44, and that is already the variance, right? And the symbol s squared already refers to the variance, so we do not need to square 1.44. So it will just be 9 times 1.44 divided by 0.81. And this would be equal to 16. So the value of our test statistic is 16, which does not exceed 16.919. Therefore, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So do not reject HO. There is insufficient evidence to suggest that the variance of the battery lives exceeds 0.81. Okay, so there's not enough evidence to say that the variance actually exceeds 0.81 using a 0.05 level of significance.